Hello and welcome to the Power of Passive Investing webinar series. We have a very interesting guest today, Katherine D'Agostino. She's going to tell you all about herself, but I'll just give you a high level. She is a boat, an RV, and storage investor. I don't think we ever had a combination of those on our webinar series in the past, so it will be very interesting to learn about Katherine's experiences, and we're really excited to have Katherine here. So, Katherine, welcome. Please share with our audience a little bit about yourself.
Hi, Alina. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here. So my background is all I do is storage. So I'm a feasibility consultant to the storage industry, and I help people decide whether or not their market is viable, and most important, whether or not it will support the type of storage they want to develop and produce a good return on investment. Because sometimes, of course, the market could be undersupplied, but if you're not going to get an acceptable return on investment, you shouldn't build. And I'm also a storage developer myself. I've built 2 facilities here in Nebraska. I have another one. I live in Nebraska, and I own 2 boat and RV storage facilities in other states, as well as another storage facility here in Nebraska. And I'm in the process of developing another facility in Tucson. So I'm right out there with my clients, suffering through the development process and everything that comes with it. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Exciting, very nice. So, you don't only do feasibilities, but you also help clients with brand new development when they want to do it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So primarily, people reach out to me. I'm the first person in the process when they identify a parcel of land that they want to develop on. And I do development coaching for a limited number of people, but I don't do any other services like property management or construction management where I stand to have a financial gain if people develop. So I will just, I don't make any money whether you build or don't build. So I'll give you my honest opinion, just like an appraiser. Like, this will either work or it won't work.
Got it. Got it. Interesting. Love that. So, Catherine, and thank you so much for the introduction. And I'm pretty sure you're a lot more and you've done a lot more things, but you've been very modest. So, let's try to dive into your knowledge so that we can share with our audience a little bit about this very interesting and very little known asset classes, especially boat and RV.
Yeah.
And storage as well. So if someone is at the early stages of their journey and is interested to select a market where they want to go to, how would you go about this process for both of the asset classes?
Right. Well, so first of all, I think it's easiest, if possible, if it's your first development, if possible, it's easiest to develop close to you, right? So you're going to want to find a market, ideally within driving distance, unless you're a pilot and you just want to fly to your storage facility all the time.
Right.
So storage is a very localized market. So if you are looking at developing whether it's self-storage or boat and RV storage or flex warehouse, even storage condos like man caves, primarily your customer is always going to come within a 10-mile radius. So there are certainly exceptions to that, like for boat and RV storage. If say you're by Lake Tahoe, maybe your tenants are coming from farther away.
Yep.
But most of the time, they're coming from within 10 miles. And for self-storage, if it's in an urban area, they might just be coming in from 1 mile around you.
Oh, wow. That's
So
incredible.
the most important thing to determine, first of all, is obviously pick what kind of storage you want to develop, and then determine how big the market is in your area. So if you're in Chicago, maybe you're going to look for land and you're only going to have to worry about competition in a mile. But Like, if you're in Nebraska, where I've built my facilities, maybe your customers are coming from 10 miles away or further. So
Sure.
when you're looking for land, of course, you have to look for land that's affordable, right? Like, and obviously, if you're building in Chicago, you can pay a lot more for your land, but if your whole development is going to cost more because you're probably going to build a multi-story facility, or if it's boat and RV storage, you're going to build just a really nice facility, so you can pay more for land.
Yep.
After price, your most important consideration should be zoning. Does your land have the zoning it needs? Because I have fought that fight. I have fought that fight on behalf of my clients, getting the zoning changed. But I'm telling you, it is not fun. It costs a lot of money, and you're just going to save yourself a lot of headaches if you look for land that has the zoning you need. And, obviously, it helps to have a good broker. But even if you have a good broker, don't take their word for it. Find out what the zoning requirements are in the area. And then even if they tell you this land is zoned for the type of storage you wanted to build, don't believe them. Call and make sure, because a lot of times they think it could be, but there could be other restrictions, and it might not be. So, okay, so then there's going to be some different things that you look for self-storage versus boat and RV storage. So for self-storage, you really are looking for high density housing and apartments. So the general rule of thumb is that we want at least 25% of the housing within the submarket to be renters for self-storage, because self-storage is directly tied to mobility, and the more people move, the more they need self-storage.
Of course.
So you're looking for a good number of renters in a market. And if you find a market, like say it's by a university, and there's just a ton of renters, well, then there's going to be an above average demand for storage and more churn in that market. And that is good for you, because then you can raise prices more.
Awesome. Love it. Great pointers.
Yeah. And then for boat and RV storage, so you're looking for several things. So if you are in a city, you're looking for an area with a lot of homeowners associations and or parking regulations that are restricting whether or not people can park their boats and RVs at their house or on the street. So ideally you can find that, but I mean, you have more flexibility here. You can also be looking like at building or developing near a tourist attraction. Like one of my facilities is by Starved Rock State Park in Illinois, which is like an hour and a half west of Chicago. It gets 1.9 million visitors a year. And in comparison, Yellowstone gets 2.3 million visitors a year.
Wow, that's impressive for your park.
So most of us have never heard of Starved Rock State Park because
Yes.
we don't, like I live in Nebraska. We
I'm
don't
sorry.
ever talk
I'm
about
me
it.
neither. Yes.
But people go there, and it's by the Illinois River, and they bring their boats. And so, it's a great place for boat and RV storage. So those are like, two different kind of considerations. If you want to develop by a city, you're looking for those homeowners associations and parking regulations. But if you want to build by a tourist attraction, then you're looking for, are people going to leave their boat there?
Incredible, amazing. And thank you for that, Catherine. And in terms of the development, I understand that it will differ from market to market, and it also differs for the two asset classes that you're an expert in. But to give our audience a ballpark in general, maybe a range, like how much does it take to develop these two asset classes?
Well, excluding the cost of land, I can, if you go to Tracti Building Systems, I can send you the link to that for the show notes.
Please, yeah.
They have a development calculator that they keep updated.
Amazing.
And they will always have the price for non-climate controlled self-storage right now is going to be between $55 and $65 all in, excluding the land, per
Mhm.
square foot.
Got it. Okay.
And then climate controlled self-storage, as well as non-climate controlled boat and RV storage, is going to be between $65 and $75 a square foot. And the reason that the non-climate controlled boat and RV storage is the same price as climate controlled self-storage is, if you think about it, the buildings are taller and the doors are taller, and a lot of times you have automatic doors. So that's why it's more.
Got it. Wow, incredible.
So canopy boat and RV storage, that's going to be, this is not on their website, so you're gonna have to remember this. But canopy is going to be about $50 a square foot. So you can see, given that price, it's hard to make that pencil in a lot of markets.
Oh yeah, very expensive.
Yeah, you're gonna have to be able to get really good prices or be able to develop cheaper than that. And I would recommend Metal Materials Direct. They build nationwide, and they can probably get you canopy for less than that. And then for uncovered outdoor parking, I would use $6 a square foot. And for that's for gravel. And then for paved, I would use $11 a square foot. So if you remember those numbers, you can plug all of those into the development calculator. And it also will help you, you just have to look up prices of competitors in the area, plug that in, and you'll be able to see, it'll give you your cash flow projections. It's kind of a back of the napkin thing, but
Sure.
it's useful when you're like looking at different markets.
Of course, of course. And it sounds like developing purely parking lot, whether it's paved or graveled, is much more economical, even though even that requires finding land that economically feasible to be developed
Right.
in the
Yeah.
first place. But when it comes to that, what would you say that is ideal for? What kind of parking? Is that like trucks primarily?
No, I mean, you could do truck parking. You could even do industrial outdoor storage. It's really hot right now. And that's like contractor yards.
Okay.
With that, you're primarily looking for a business audience, right? So let me just go on that tangent really quick.
Sure, of course.
For that type of storage, a contractor yard, picture like you take an acre of land and you divide it up into 4 quadrants. And then you have one main gate that's automatic, that's coded. And then everybody's lots within that. They don't necessarily need automatic gates, but you could do that. That's a different type of tenant. So that's going to be a longer term lease. And then just regular boat and RV storage.
Sure.
And that would be like a construction company that needs to keep all their equipment there. Or if you picture like a cable company that has a bunch of trucks that they need to keep there. Sometimes they even have like an office on site. You can even do a trailer. But that type of industrial outdoor storage is very hard to find. You're going to want to be looking in all markets. Of course, you're looking for a growing market, but you see a huge need for those in the South, in the Southeast, like Florida, Texas, which I guess more Southwest, but places where there's just a lot of construction.
Got it. Got it. Okay.
And then, yeah, but most outdoor storage is boat and RV storage. You get some cars, but just that uncovered parking will be, anything would park there. At my facilities, we let semis park there at first when we were in lease up, because I'm sure you know that feeling from being in lease up when you're like, I'll take anybody's money. I need money. But then when you're not in lease up and you're like, you're tearing up my lot, like we evicted all semis, we evicted all construction companies. We require that all vehicles be running. And when we first opened at some of my facilities, we'd be like, we don't care. Does it run? We don't care. But now, so, and yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, like, it's hard to, when I'm doing a feasibility study, I'm looking at three primary audiences, generally boats, RVs, and cars. And I
Mm-hmm.
look to see how many of those are in your trade area. And then I
Course.
extrapolate, given other information about that market, like who the people are and what the parking restrictions and HOAs are, how many will park at your facility. So those would be your three main audiences.
Right, makes sense. Um, Catherine, I noticed you said that, when you first develop and were in the pre-leasing stage of your open parking facility, you took everyone, and then you had to evict them. It sounds like there were quite a few tenants that needed to be evicted, meaning they probably did not pay their rent. If you were to somehow pre-screen them, do you think you would still pre-lease it to those kind of tenants, or you would only stick to your ideal tenant moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, it is easier to, if you, from the start, if you say, we always require proof of registration and we always require that you have insurance. And if you don't have insurance, that you will, and you don't provide proof of insurance, after 10 days, you're automatically enrolled in our insurance. And that's like a profit source.
Yeah,
So, but I think it just really depends on the owner, and it depends on your style of management. So but the nice thing is that with both self-storage and boat and RV storage, it's not at all like renting an apartment or something. If people don't pay, you just simply evict them after you follow the process. But after 45 days, we evict our tenants. And the Self-Storage Association recommends for boats and RVs that you don't mess with trying to like auction those, because you don't want to follow the whole title chain of who owns the boat or RV or car. You just have them towed by a towing company, and the towing company has to, they have to pay off their bill with you and the towing company to get their vehicle back.
got it. Got it. Thank you for that clarification. Curious, and I'm sure our audience would appreciate that. Would you say that these businesses are cyclical and dependent on economy, recessions, and stuff like that?
Well, so yes and no. So the good thing about self-storage
Mhm.
is that self-storage does well during bad times and in good times. And self-storage has the highest returns of any real estate asset class for the last
Amazing.
29 years.
Incredible.
And we have the lowest default rate of any real estate asset class. And so self-storage is primarily driven by the 4 Ds of real estate, like death, dislocation, uh, divorce, and there's another one I'm forgetting. But so when times are good, people are moving, they're buying new houses.
Yep.
When times are bad, like in the pandemic, people can't move, so they need storage. So during the pandemic, storage facilities saw the highest prices we've ever seen as an industry. Like, they were insane. And the last 2 years, they've come down like almost nationwide. And our lease up has slowed at new facilities because now people don't have as much money and they can move, but they're not moving.
Got
So
it.
prices are still higher than they were before the pandemic, but the last 2 years have been kind of tough on facilities and lease up, but still overall pretty good. But boat and RV storage is a little bit different because, if you raise my prices too much, I can just drive away.
Yeah.
And we have seen there was a huge, as you know, like everybody bought in a boat and RV during the pandemic. I bought a boat. It's for sale. If you want to buy it, Alina, let me know.
Sounds
So now everybody is selling those boats and RVs, right? A lot of people are. The good news is that millennials love boats and RVs. They are buying boats and RVs, and they have continued to enjoy that outdoor lifestyle. But they still need a place to store them.
of
So
course.
even if they're changing hands, And we have seen, like compared to self-storage, in most parts of the country, boat and RV storage is much more undersupplied. So there's a lot more room for growth. But in terms of like reselling facilities, I think last fall, the last number I saw from Yardi Matrix, the most recent number, was something like only 40 or 50 boat and RV storage facilities changed hands in 2024 compared to 2023, where I think 400.
Oh, wow.
So, like there and self-storage facilities haven't changed hands as much, and development starts are down. But what that all means is like now is the time, because you want to be building during the downtime.
Yep.
Construction costs are still high, but there's a huge advantage to building now and developing now compared to doing that when the market is good and everybody else starts building, because you'll be in lease up during that time and they'll be struggling to get contractors.
Of course. Yeah, makes sense. That's perfect. Let's switch gears a little bit, Catherine, and let's talk about actual site selection. So you've selected the market, and hopefully it's local to you, or you have local boots on the ground, and now you're ready for a site selection. In some areas, I know you mentioned Texas, so Texas has a lot of land for sale. How does one go about selecting a site that works for these two asset classes?
Well, yeah, so you're still going to, okay, so when you are looking for a parcel to build on or a building to convert, of course, conversions work for boat and RV storage too. Like my facility, if you guys want to look at it in Illinois, it's called Bon Voyage Storage.
Love the name.
Thank you. My husband thought of that. It was like a big warehouse, and then we used a forklift to park people's boats and RVs in there. So
Nice.
much cheaper. We bought that whole thing for like 400 grand.
Incredible.
And, it's like 91,000 square feet. So obviously you couldn't build 91,000 square feet.
Yeah.
But so when you locate the parcel, or when you're looking for a parcel or a building, ideally you're looking for it on a high traffic road, and ideally you're looking for it in a market with not much competition, or if there is competition, that you've done some research to see what their prices are and what their pricing trends are, like prices been going up, and if they are predominantly full. As long as you're calling the city or the county to see what the zoning is, ask them if there's any other facilities that are planned, permitted, or under construction, because your biggest enemy is going to be too much storage. So if somebody else is building 100,000 square feet a mile away, I would just be like, next. You don't want to fight that battle, especially with your first facility. So how much land you need is going to vary by the type of storage you want to build. So generally speaking, boat and RV storage is going to need 5 to 10 acres, and self-storage is going to need between 3 and 5 acres. Now, if you're building in, like New York City has the most self-storage being built in the country right now because it's so undersupplied.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah, but it's obviously the barriers to entry are huge because, it's going to take you forever to get approvals, and your holding costs are going to be so high. But you see a ton of conversions there, like, 7-story self-storage facilities. And, then maybe it is only on an acre. But generally speaking, you're going to need 3 to 5 acres for self-storage. And then you want to be sure that you have enough usable land. So you may want to call an engineer and ask them just to look at your land online and see, like, given the water detention or the slope of the land, or hopefully you're calling a local engineer that will drive by for you and tell you, is this even suitable for storage?
Sure.
Those are the things you want to think about, like the actual land itself.
Thank you for that, Catherine. And in terms of the range, you mentioned calling the city to find out if not only if they have any existing storage, but also if there are any developments or approvals and so forth. Um, i- what about calling surrounding towns and finding out if they have anything? Like what radius do you need to cover to make sure that this is the right area to build something?
Right. That's a great point. So if you're building in an urban area, generally speaking, just think about you need about at least 30,000 people to support your facility, right? So if you're building in Grand Island, Nebraska, maybe you're going to have to go 10 miles to get those people. But if you're building in Seattle, maybe you only have to go a mile.
Yep.
Okay. So if it's Seattle, just, you can just get away with just calling that municipality. But like you said, if it's a more suburban or rural area, or if you're like right up against another municipality, then you want to call everybody within a 3 to 5 mile radius.
Gotcha, gotcha. Makes perfect sense. And you mentioned a couple of times how critical is to have the right zoning. And from my earlier experience, I know that it's not always industrial, and it may differ not only by state, but it may differ from municipality to municipality. So it's
Mm-hmm.
very critical to call them and find out what it is,
And
right?
yeah, and like see what their attitude towards storage is. So if you're find something that say storage is permitted by right, okay, great. But if it's permitted with a special use permit or a conditional use permit, and say you're looking at say like Frisco, Texas, right, which is just north of Dallas,
Mhm.
they they are over storage, right? Like they hate storage. They're not going to let you get it through.
Any kind,
No,
RV.
no. They're like too much storage, doesn't bring any jobs. All we get from you is property tax. Actually, they probably get sales tax, but still, they want something else. They want
Right.
Lowe's or Home Depot or something.
Makes
So,
sense.
um, so yeah, I mean, it's good to just talk to the planning, and it depends on the municipality. You might have to, if it's a big municipality, you might have to call several times. And that's another advantage you have if you live there, because then you can go in.
Yeah, that's much
and
better.
and there's nothing wrong with, everybody likes cookies, everybody likes donuts, they're like humans.
Oh, wow, that's a great point. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah,
Absolutely. We are humans. I love it.
yeah,
Especially now during the holidays or hot cocoa or hot coffee.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And nobody ever like does anything nice for those poor people.
Or yeah, and they do work very hard.
Yeah,
Yeah, no,
yeah.
excellent point. Um, I was gonna ask something and it's just slipped my mind in terms of the storage. I,
Well, I was gonna say, like, you're going to also, when you're thinking about your market, um, you you really need to, like, one thing I'm doing when I'm doing a feasibility study is I'm not just saying, okay, people are going to come from this 3 mile radius no matter what. Like,
Mhm.
if there's a mountain next to you, they're not coming from the other side of the mountain. They're
Oh
going
yeah,
to storage over there. Or if there's an interstate, or if there's like a lake or something. So your trade area may not always be this perfect circle. That's why it does help if, even though I don't live in, obviously I don't live in any of the places I'm doing feasibility studies except for myself usually. um, uh, you need to like look at the map, not just at uh, at at this circle. You need to say, like, I'm looking at this interstate. Okay, given the places where people can cross the interstate, are they going to cross the interstate to get to me? Or like if I'm building in this suburb, where is everybody driving? Are they all driving south to work? Because people prefer to store on their way to work. So if everybody's driving south and my facility is north, then maybe these people down here aren't really my audience. So you need to think about like the people that live there and their habits. And you can't always count on them to choose you first.
That's an excellent point, and it reinforces you mentioning earlier that ideally you want to live in the area or know the area because you've lived there at some point in the past or have family that can give you that guidance and tell you,
Mhm.
what kind of experience
Yeah,
you'll get in the area. So
yeah.
excellent, and thanks for that. Because that helped me to remember what I was going to ask you. I like the creativity that you and your husband had when you took the
Oh, we talk a
warehouse,
lot.
yeah, with a forklift and decided to put
Oh,
convert it into the storage with the forklift. I mean, not everyone has such vision to see things that are, built for one purpose to transform it into something completely different and have a profiting business in it. So that's incredible, and kudos to you and your husband for doing that.
well, that it's a and for self-storage too, if you can find a conversion, like if you can find a Kmart, I mean, Sears are usually too small.
Mhm,
Um, or if you can find a grocery store,
mhm,
like I have a client that just converts old grocery stores and expands into the strip mall areas around that,
mhm.
and then just manages them with extra space and just does it over and over and over. And it's so much cheaper than ground up. And you get like think about the quality of a grocery store building compared to a regular self-storage building. I mean, it's a nicer building. It's going to be in the heart of a suburban area usually,
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, you have to keep your eyes open for
For sure.
those things.
Well, we in New Jersey, we've had a bunch of Bed Bath and Beyond closed, and now Party City is closing. What can I do with those?
Well, it depends on how big they are. You just have to do the math and see if it will work. Like the Bed Bath and Beyonds, a lot of times, what are they? Would you say like 20,000 square feet?
Yeah, yeah, some of them are. Yeah.
You just have to do the math and see if that will work, because that's kind of small for probably what it costs.
Mhm.
And
One that I know of is right next to Home Depot.
oh, nice. See, and wouldn't
Yes.
that be perfect?
Yes, that would be perfect. And it's an intersection of one, two, three highways.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that would be great. Well,
Yeah.
and you might, if you need, when I'm looking at a conversion, I'm looking for something ideally that is at least 18 feet tall so that you can do a mezzanine level and
Sure.
build two, so if you can turn that 20,000 square feet into 40,000 square feet, maybe it would work.
Of course, makes sense.
So, yeah.
Catherine, thank you. This has been an incredible interview. I personally learned a ton. I'm sure our audience is learning from you a lot as well.
Thank you, Alina.
What's that?
It's fun to talk to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So we always ask two personal questions at the end. First of all, how can our audience find you? If anyone wants to reach out, learn from you, hire you to do feasibility and so forth, what's the best way to find you?
Well, my website is
I
selfstorageninjas.com.
love it. I
And
love it. Self-storage.
ninjas is plural. And I was going to say, if you find a submarket or a parcel that you want me to look at, I'll do a free preliminary report for you. I do
Thank
your
you.
first one free. It's just a high level look at the market. And successive reports are $100. So you can't ask me to do 20 markets for free. But that will give you like some initial indications on whether or not the market will support more storage, and it'll kind of speed up the process for you.
Amazing, amazing. And $100 is still very inexpensive in
Yeah,
our days. So,
but it's high level. It's worth $100. It's not
well,
worth.
yeah,
So,
I'm sure. I'm sure of that.
it's not
Thank you,
worth.
Kathy.
It's not worth
And
$4,000.
okay, understood. And the last question that we ask our audience, how do you like to give back?
Oh, well, um, primarily I give back to my community, like my local community,
Mhm.
by my kids and I do like a lot of adopt a trail and outdoor things like that. So we're like picking up trash and um,
Wow. Nice.
And so you kind of like get the combination of the satisfaction of them seeing like, you know, sponsored by on the trail and
Hmm.
getting them to go outside and do something.
Yeah,
That's my favorite thing to do.
and see the results of the work. Plus, you guys do it together as a family. That's
Yeah,
incredible. Very
that's
nice. Very
yeah,
nice. Thank you for doing that, Catherine. Well,
yeah,
Catherine, this has been an amazing interview. I learned a lot. I'm
sweet.
sure our people have learned a lot, and I hope they reach out. Thank you so much. Thank you for this interview. Very much
Thanks,
appreciated.
Alina.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. My pleasure.